Good morning, people. Good morning. This is me, Anthony Stewart II, coming to you to share a little information. Hopefully, I can share some information that can possibly, put you in a different kind of mindset. Because, see, what I want you to understand is, I got from point A, right? And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what my point A was. And I got from point A to point B, right? Because of a changed mindset. At one point in my life, even I was writing myself off. Even I had assumed that the things that was going on in my life, right, was almost like ordained. Like all the bad things. I was like, people used to say, it's a necessary evil, right? Like, there's certain things that just have to be bad, like certain things that just have to be negative in order for God to show his grace and his glory, right? But I was looking at it with a different kind of mindset. And let me explain. My mindset at the time, when I was living the life I was living and I was making the mistakes that I was making, right? My mindset was that, I'm going through these things because I'm the necessary evil. I'm thinking that, these things was designed for people like me. I really kind of had I had the mindset that, I was the necessary evil. So I didn't think that, God had a plan for anything in my life that was greater, than what was going on, at the moment. So, I made some real bad decisions, and let me just tell you a little bit about what those decisions actually, put me in front of. Like, at a young age, I kind of, decided that, I was going to try to figure out how to take care of myself, right? It was a bad situation, growing up. I don't blame my parents. I don't blame anybody, for what they didn't know. I don't blame anybody for not, not being able to teach me the things they had no idea about, right? But, as I was growing up, and I'm going through things, I was with my father. He was a single father, right? He was a single father. He did the best he could. I mean? Like, I'll never sit there and say that my dad was, a terrible dad. He did this and if he didn't do this, if he'd have did this right, I'd have been a better person, or, things would have been better. I wouldn't have the life that I had. But, I thank God for my father. I thank God for the trials. I thank God for giving me the type of father that I do have, because, in the process of that, my father instilled some very great values in me, right? So, even though I made some very bad decisions, but what I'm saying to you is like it was necessary, right? So, in the course of these, decisions, I got in trouble with the law, and that was kind of like my pattern, since the young age of, like, 13, 14 years old. I was back and forth, and in different prison cells, from state to state, and it wasn't even like it was like, I was just sitting in this one state, and I was just getting in trouble. It's like, I took my crime spree on the road, right? And it was sad because I really had the idea, right, that this was going to be something that was going to get me through, right? Because, growing up in the neighborhood and growing up in the hood, you really got, like, a couple ideas of what's going to get you and your family out, right? You either going to become this great sports star, you either going to become this person that can play sports real well, and you're gonna make the league, you're gonna sign these $1 million contracts, or you're gonna have this great singing talent, or you're gonna be a rapper, or you're gonna be an actor. It's those type of things that, if you don't possess those skills, you tend to fall back on the other things that the neighborhoods offer. And most of the time, that's doing something wrong. Most of the time, that's, the drug activity. Most of the time, that's just the crime, right? The things that's tearing our communities up. And sometimes, growing up as youth, because, we don't have the people that's, supporting us and pushing us and, keeping us believing in something greater, right? Like, we don't have those individuals in our lives all the time that's pushing us and letting us know that there's something great in us. So we tend to, get discouraged. We tend to, we don't see the end because there's no examples of anything greater than a good 9 to 5, or, anything greater than, trying to become that athlete, or anything greater than, trying to become that singer or that rapper or this actor, right? So we're searching for these different type of talents, right, that come naturally to some individuals. And when we don't have them, right, what we do is we start becoming discouraged. We start feeling like we can't make it. So that was me at that point in my life. I was just doing things, But see, what happened was God had his hand on me, right? And God had a divine intervention on my life. So at an early age, I kind of, knew something was different about me, but I didn't know what, It was just feelings at first, I didn't really have an idea, what God had for me. So I'm steadily making my, mistakes. But see, let me just tell you a little bit about determination, because see, determination works. God has a strong determination, because once he puts his hand on you, right, and he has, a specific and a very special calling on your life, God be determined, right? He be so determined, right, to put you on that path. And the things that you're going through, right? Because I went through some things, and I tell you, if you looked at the banner or whatever the situation, I didn't spend almost, probably majority, like half of my life, 50% definitely of my life incarcerated, right? Making bad decisions. But what God didn't do, right? God didn't allow me to lose my mind in the process, right? Because see, he was so determined, right? And because he instilled, such great talents and such a powerful purpose on my life, he wasn't giving up on me, right? And that was amazing, because at certain times, making these decisions and things like that, I actually given up on myself. I didn't see anything coming out, I didn't see anything good coming out of life, right? And it was to a point, because even as a youth, I went through some medical issues, right? And I'm gonna tell y'all this because I'm being real transparent right now. This is, but this is part of my miracle, right? And I just want y'all to understand, like, my miracle started young, because see, growing up, like as a child, right, I had medical issues, right? So the doctor said I would never have kids, right? The doctor, told my parents, as a young, I was like, I don't know how old I was really, exact age, but I know as a young child, my parents, my father and my mother was told that I would never have kids, like, I would never, produce kids, or whatever the situation was, right? Due to medical issues, right? So to God be the glory, right? Because let me say, I got two beautiful kids, right? They're beautiful. I love them to death. Amani Lachey and Jeremiah Savion. They're my miracle babies, because and that's how I kind of knew that God still had his hand on me, and that he was still going to provide. I kind of felt like the story about Abraham, and how it took them so long to they was praying for kids, and it would seem like her womb was tied up, that she couldn't have no kids. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like God, you put this great ministry in me, right? You put this love in me to to nurture and to help individuals, but you won't even allow me to have a child, right? So I had all kinds of different animosities towards the Lord, right? But what happened was, God didn't take his hand off me, right? So in the process of me, being incarcerated and things like that, it took a certain type of mentality, because a lot of people that's never been incarcerated, they really don't know what it takes, right, to survive inside of that type of environment. Because that type of environment, it's not just a physical punishment. It's just not, it's not something that because they took you away from your family and stuff like that. That's just that's the surface of the things that go on to individuals that's incarcerated. The things that happen to individuals that's incarcerated, it's a mental thing. You know what I mean? Because when you go in there, you got to subject yourself, to a lot of things that if you was free, you wouldn't deal with, right? You got all these different characteristics, all these different attitudes, and then you just got people in there stereotyping you and treating you any way they want to, because they believe you're a bad person, because you just, you've done something wrong, like you've made a bad decision, right? So it's a mindset. And let me tell you a little bit about my mindset that saved me, that kind of kept me, right, during the course of my incarceration. I started understanding that God had something different for me, to a degree where he started bringing people in my life, right? And he started using some of the gifts that he had placed inside of me. My ability to help people, my ability to be understanding, my ability to help people solve issues, my ability to, just be that rock for individuals when they had nothing else, right? And that was big for me, but at the time, it was I thought it was like pestering, right? I'm like, I don't really want to deal with people like that, right? But see, what I didn't understand was God was taking me from my point A, right, to my point B, and I had no clue of what He was doing, right? I had no clue because, see, mentally, I wasn't there yet, because at a young age, I used to go to church, because I grew up in the church, my mother and my father, my father's a pastor, my mom, she's A1, praise God, put God first. And I love her for that because, her prayers, I believe, along with my father's and other family members and, just the people that love me, I believe those prayers saved my life, right? And I just want to understand, I want people to understand that, even when you get in that point in your life, right, where, you don't really see what's important or you don't really see what's going on in your life, right? You have to understand, right, that people are praying over your life, right? And it's working because, if we keep making the decisions that we making, right, and there's no covering, like there's no one that feels, there's something greater. Because see, that's the thing. God really understands that we're not going to make all the right decisions, right? And we're not going to do everything right, right? So what He has done, and God is so amazing because what He does in the process of knowing, right? Because see, that's the beauty of it, because he knows, right, that we're going to go in a certain direction. He knows that we're going to make these mistakes, right? What He's doing is He's putting in place, right, training, so that you can become who you need to become when He brings you out of this storm. And that's amazing because, see, that's what I had to come to grips with. Sitting in them jail cells, hearing people crying, seeing the different things that's going on. And, just people losing their mind. I mean, people will come in there, just like me, right? Then 6 months later, you see them, in the hallway or something, and they're on medication. They got them on all, because they just mentally can't take being confined. They mentally can't take the pressures of missing someone or the pressures of facing themselves, right? Because see, that's what happens. You end up going in there and you have to face yourself, right? You have to acknowledge what you did. You have to acknowledge what you're going to do, right? And how you're going to do it. Because that's all you're left with when you're in there. People try to get away from it. And I think that's the part of the problem with people losing it. Because see, people don't take that time, right, to become better. And God blessed me with the desire, right? He blessed me with the determination. And that's one of the principles that I live by. And that's what I wanted to talk to y'all today about, that great word determination. Because when I was incarcerated and I was going through the things that I was going through, right? I always felt that I couldn't bring anyone with me. Like I really didn't want, it wasn't your fault if I went to prison, right? Like if I did something wrong and I had to be punished for it, right? I never wanted anyone else to feel that punishment. Like I never wanted anyone else to feel like they was incarcerated with me, right? So, most of the time I went to jail, or prison, I was incarcerated. I did the time by myself. You know what I mean? I didn't ask for nothing. I didn't call people. I didn't worry people. I would rarely write, you know what I mean? So communication with the outside world to me was really nothing. I really didn't communicate. I really dealt with my situation for what it is, right? And I thank God for giving me the strength to be able to do it like that because, what I recognize is that a lot of people, once they lose the ones that they have on the outside, they can't function. They start getting depressed. They start making even worse decisions, and things of that nature. But what God did for me was amazing because, see, God said, you know what? We ain't going to focus on the outside world, right? Because I have your time right here, right? And because you are in a position where, you can get better. What I'm going to do is I need your time right now. And God said, I want you to focus on me. So during the process of me being incarcerated, that's kind of what started happening to me, right? God started bringing me closer and closer to Him. Just showing me, the greater things that was for me if I just decided, right, to align myself with my assignment. And that was blazing because, see, what we don't understand is this, right? When God has a purpose on your life or when He has things for you, see, they don't go nowhere, right? You know, we keep making decisions and we keep saying, you know, I probably missed my blessing, or, you know, I probably missed what was for me, right? But what God wants you to understand is that it never goes anywhere, right? He's waiting on you because, see, this is the thing. What's for you is for you. What's for you isn't for me, you know, but we just got to get to a point, right? With a changed mind, right? And the changed mind comes from allowing God to renew that. You have to go in there and say, you know what, God? My thinking is stinking, right? Like I can't get it right. Like the way that I think, right? The way that I think isn't working. So Lord, I ask that you renew my mind. I ask that you renew my spirit, because see, what's going to happen is I need something different, and I need to be different in order for you to be able to use me the way that you need to use me, right? So in the process, you know, I'm going through this process, and God is changing me, right? Because he's bringing me more to the word. And not just that, he's sending messengers to me, letting me understand that, you know, there's something bigger for you. If I can just get you to see it, right? So, you know, little things start happening. You know, people start coming to me for advice. You know, people start coming to me for, you know, just advice on the Lord. You know, and how can they get back in union? You know, how can they reestablish their covenant with God, right? And you know, as God started using me, it became apparent, right, what my true calling was. So now the only decision that I had to make, right, because see, this is the decision that you have to make also. Because see, this is part of the changed mind. So I want y'all to understand, once you make a decision like, I'm going to walk with you, Lord, right? Or you make a decision saying, Lord, use me, right? Now that decision has to be real, because see, God is going to start using you, right? So he don't need you to start getting scared, right? Of the way that he's going to use you. Right? So you have to be so determined to please the Lord that the fear of what he's about to do or where he's about to place you, it can't be in the forefront of your mind. It can't be in the forefront of your heart. And that's why, you know, by him placing me and saying, you know what, don't worry about the outside world. What I need you to do right now is focus on me first. You know, I need you to keep putting me first, because every time you put the outside world in front of me, this is what happens to you. You know, and he was just showing me examples, right, of how my bad decisions, or how me deciding not to walk with him, was leading me right to these prison walls. Was putting me right in these solitary confinements, was putting me right where I can be unproductive and where I had no place, because I was a child of God. And see, that's what I didn't understand. You know, as a youth, people constantly prophesied over my life, right? People constantly said, you know, this is what you're going to do and this is what you're going to be, right? But I ran. I ran out of fear, because I didn't want to be responsible for what they were saying that I was going to be responsible for, right? So what I did was make a bunch of decisions that would take me in the opposite direction. Like I almost tried to prove God wrong, right? I almost was trying to prove God wrong by doing things wrong, to say that I'm not the one you're looking for, right? I did everything opposite of what I should have been doing, and it was almost like I was saying, God, I ain't the one. I ain't the one you're looking for, right? So God said, you know what? I'm going to keep showing you. Because see, this is the thing. I'm not going to allow you to tell me who you are, because I know who I made you. Right? And that was powerful for me, because after all I was going through, you know, the brushes with death, you know, the in and out of the, you know, the different prisons, you know, from state to state, you know, from just you know, getting to a point where I got married at a young age. You know, I had my children, which was a blessing. I told you, you know, miracle kids, you know, but during the course of me making these bad decisions, during the course of me, you know, running from God, right? I lost my kids, you know. I didn't lose them, but I you know, the devil, right, stole my kids from me, you know, with my decisions, you know, and God said, you know, you can have everything back. You know, it's not nothing that you can't have back, but, you know, it depends on how bad you want it, right? It depends on, you know, what are you willing to give up, right? And what are you willing to change? And I said, God, I'm willing to change everything. I'm willing to change it all. You just let me know what I need to do. Let me know how I can please you, right? Let me know how I can perform your will. Let me know how I can move in your purpose, right? I just want my kids back. And see, that was like a turning point for me. That was like a transitional point for me because, once I started recognizing what I was losing, right? And I started listening to myself because that's what I was doing. I was telling myself that everything I was doing, I was trying to justify, right? Well, everything I'm doing it for the family. I'm doing it for the kids, right? But I was running. Everything I was doing was running from God and what he had for my life. Because see, the reality was God is going to give me everything that I need, right? So if I was doing it for the kids, if I was doing it for my family, and God already promised me that he was going to give me everything, I should have been walking with God, right? But God said, you know what? I'm going to put you through trials, right? I'm going to put you inside of these walls. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to force you, right? I'm going to force you to help these men. I'm going to force you to help individuals that you may not even like. I'm going to force you to minister to men, right? In a fashion that you're going to help change their life, right? And I'm going to make you do it because no matter if you want to do it or not, I'm going to send these people at you, right? And because I gave you the heart that I gave you, you're going to help them. And it was amazing because I was actually helping these people. Like I was actually giving them hope. I was actually, showing them that God had something better for them. Even when I didn't understand what I was doing. But God was so amazing because he uses you even without you knowing it. That's amazing how he uses you and you ain't got to always say yes, right? Because sometimes in your trials, right? Sometimes at your lowest, right? God is using you because see, somebody needs to see that, right? Somebody needs to understand that, right? And not just that, what God is doing, he's putting you in position, right? To be able to go through something that can benefit someone else later on in your life. Because see, what we go through, right? And what I come to understand because, living 42 years on this earth, things come and things go, right? But what I come to understand is, when God puts you through something, right? And God helps you understand something, it's because someone's about to come in your life, right? Someone's on this path that you're traveling, this journey that you're walking with God, right? That's going to need that. What God brought you through, right? That blessing that God bestowed upon your life. When he brought you through, someone that's on that path in this journey that we're walking with God is going to need that. And that's what we got to understand. Like, we're going through it because we're strong enough, right? When God sends us through things, it's because we're strong enough. It's not because, he just want to do it or, the devil is doing this. No, sometimes we got to understand God is molding us. He's refining us. Like he's bringing us through the fire. So when things are happening, don't keep associating everything with the devil. Yeah, the devil is busy. And yes, the devil is working, right? And that he definitely wants you not to walk with God. But let me help you understand something. A lot of times, right, when you're faithful, right, and you're steadfast and you're focused on God, you can understand the difference of when God is bringing you through, right, and when you're being attacked by the devil. Because see, the devil ain't gonna be pushing you through. Let me help you understand that now. See, the devil ain't gonna ever help you get through a problem that was placed in front of you. The devil wants you to squabble all, and the devil just wants you all up in your mess. And I'm just going to be honest with you. But see, when God has his hand on you, right? Like he had his hand on me, and he has his hand on so many individuals, right? He's not going to allow a situation or a circumstance, right, to hold you down. But see, God also needs you to be willing, right, to do something different. He needs you to recognize that all that you were doing, on your own accord, with your own thinking, trying to fulfill your own will, those are the things that's not going to get you where you need to go. Now, I want y'all to think about these principles that I'm talking about, because I'm not going to be up here all day, all morning talking to you, but I just wanted to open you up a little bit about, me and some of the things that I went through as a youth, getting from point A to point B, going from the mentality of being the individual that it seemed like was designed to do the wrong, and in all retrospect, the things that was going on in my life, God had designed them so that I can become the person I am now. It's a blessing, and right now God is showing me favor, and it's just because I'm being obedient, right? And that's another thing. Once you get this changed mind, right, now you want to start being obedient, to the things that God is placing in front of you. Because see, he will never ask you to do anything that you can't do. And a lot of times we just don't want to do it because it's like it's outside of what we consider to be fun, or, what we just want to do, right? And sometimes it's just not, we just don't feel it, right? But see, what we don't get, right? A lot of times we go to God, even in my moments, I was incarcerated, or, things was going on in my life, right? Excuse me. Where, I would call on God, right? Even though I was running, right? Now, this is the funny part. Even though I was running from God, right? I'm running from God. I don't want to do nothing that God want me to do, right? Every time he say, go talk about the word, every time he say, save one of my saints, I'm running, right? But every time I got in trouble, or every time things wasn't going right for me, right? Guess who the first person was that I called on? Huh? Can anybody guess who the first person was that I called on when things got out of hand and I didn't know? I called on the Lord. Lord, please help me. Lord, if you just bring me through. Lord, if you can just show me how. Lord, if you could just help me this one time. I promise I'll always love you. I'll always cherish you. I'll always praise you. I'll always lift you up. And see, this is the thing. This is what I was saying when I was running from God, right? And this is what we all do. We run, right? We run from our calling, right? We step out of line, right? And we want to go do what we want to do. We want to go do the things that pleases the flesh, right? But then when things get out of control and we lose control and we can't get things back in order, right? The first thing we do is say, Lord, can you help me? God said, listen, you were straight until you jumped out of line, right? So we got to understand, like, with a changed mind, we got to be so determined, right? We got to be so steadfast and determined in our desire to be pleasing in the sight of the Lord. Because, see, this is what happens. If you can't maintain that determination, right, you're going to find yourself swaying, right? You're going to find yourself stepping out of line every now and then. But, see, what I want you to understand is that it's okay because you're not perfect. You're not perfect. You're not perfect. And God is okay with not perfect because he be like, when you're weak, like at your moments of imperfection, right? He has an opportunity to show his perfection. He has an opportunity to show his greatness. He has an opportunity to give, for him to receive the glory in your life. And see, we have to be open for that. We have to be open for our weak moments being those testimonies, right? Those times in our lives where we're going through things, that being the moment, those being the circumstances and the situations that can alter life, right? And we have to accept that. And that's what accepting the Lord is about. Accepting the Lord is about bringing him and allowing him to be in your life, right? And do the things that you can't do. And you ask for discernment, Lord, move my hands in a way that you would move them so that they can do the things that you need them to do, right? And I'm not going to hold y'all up. And I appreciate everybody, that's jumped on this live, this morning. I know it was early, 10 o'clock. But I just wanted to get y'all feet wet. And I wanted to, kind of introduce y'all a little bit to me, Anthony Stewart. People probably hear me a lot. I do a lot of opportunity calls. I talk to the people a lot. Because God is moving right now. Not just, in my life, but he's just moving as a whole. It's time, he's stirring up his kingdom. He's doing the things that's necessary in order for people to be in position. And all he's asking you to do is to be willing, right? Just be willing to allow him to do the things, that he started in your life. Don't run. Don't be afraid, of what's going to happen next, right? Because, with faith, it doesn't matter because what we do know is that he's going to take care of us. Like, he's not going to let anything happen to us because he's a faithful God, and you got to think about out of all the friends, right? And, even some family members, right, that we have. The only sure thing in our life, the only thing that's been a constant and been, a guarantee has been God. And once we can understand that, right, and it's no bag on nobody else. See, people tend to think that they can't love God more than they love people, right? But see, what I want you to understand is loving God is loving people. You can't really love people, right? If you can't find love for God, because God is love. God is the perfect example of what love is, from his sacrifices, right, to his mercy. So what we need to understand is, it's not about loving the next person as much as it is about loving God. So let's put God first, right? And let's just stay determined, right? Because this is the process that I want you to go through. Because hopefully by the end, of me doing these lives and, and us building these relationships and me telling you a little bit more, about my journey from prison bars to walking with the Lord, and the principles that he instilled in me during the process of that, right? And the first one being determination. He just told me, you just stay determined, right? No matter what's going on, right? You stay focused and you stay steadfast, right? On the mark of the higher calling. Because see, the thing is, it's going to get tiring, right? And you're going to run into obstacles, right? But see, you need to be so determined, right? And you need to say, you know what? It doesn't matter, how long it takes. It don't matter how hard it gets, right? I'm determined. I'm determined to fulfill the purpose of my Lord, right? And I just want you to think about that, and I want you to stay in that mindset today. I want you to be determined, right? I want you to start doing the things that, you used to give up. Give it a little bit more effort. Try just a little bit harder, because, see, that's when God is going to step in, right? See, because when you give it that other effort, God is going to nudge it just a little bit more. And see, that's what he wants. He likes to see, because we always talk about faith without works is dead, right? So God likes to see the work. He likes to see the work because you know what that shows him? It shows him that you're willing to put in something because you believe that much. That's amazing how God moves. And I thank him, for being in my life, and I thank him for this call this morning. Hopefully the information has blessed someone, has touched many, many lives. And, just if you think there's anyone that can benefit from this, I'm on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock, same time. It's Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you just want to log on, if there's anything, any questions, that you want to ask. So if you're curious, right, about, lifestyle in prison, the mindset, how can you help someone, that's incarcerated, deal with incarceration, or, things of that nature. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Or, if you just want to know how, you can get closer to God, or, how can you, just get back to your purpose, or just become reconnected. I'm here. Let's talk. Inbox me. You can catch me, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, right here, Facebook Live. We're going to be going through these principles. I'm going to be sharing more with y'all about, my life, some of the decisions that I made and how the Lord guided me, and brought me from point A to point B with a changed mind. And he gave me 3 principles, and I want to share them principles with y'all today. Determination, loyalty, and will. He gave me those 3 principles, and if y'all notice, I incorporated those 3 principles into the shirt I'm wearing. This is my logo. This is what it's about. It's Deloy. Determination, loyalty, and will. It's just 3 principles the Lord placed in me. And they're very powerful. And what they've been able to do is bring me not just from point A to point B, but they've allowed me to impact the lives of a lot of people. And I just want to share those with y'all. And, if you didn't catch me this morning, there's someone that might need to hear this information, or it's just somebody that could be blessed, from hearing, someone that came from where they came from, right? Someone that's going through what they're going through, or somebody that, has a similar background, and they've made it. I've actually changed my mindset. I'm actually moving towards, the mark of the higher calling, because I picked up my cross, and I'm walking with the Lord. And I want to thank y'all again, for joining me on this live. It's been a blessing. I can't wait to see y'all Wednesday morning. Back again. We're going to keep doing this, and we're going to help save a lot of people, and not just save a lot of people from missing out on their blessings, but we gonna help a lot of people see the power, the power, the power of the Lord. You know? And y'all have a blessed morning. Like I said, I thank y'all again. And I will be seeing you Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. We're going to talk a little bit more about determination, and then we're going to get into this thing called loyalty. You know, and I think that's going to be key for a lot of people, because that's one thing that's missing right now, us being loyal. Y'all have a blessed day. Love y'all much. God bless.